Okay, so let's keep moving along into section number 2 of the data and reporting module, which is all about what data counts. So I know we've sort of touched on it, what the basic information you get out of a PMS, but I want to talk a bit more deeply about what to start to do with that information and how to keep your handles on it. Now we're going to run through a number of frameworks, and there's a whole bunch of templates associated with this module, things that you can start to, I guess, copy and use to capture your data and keep it in some sort of manageable fashion. But these tips are nice in concept, harder to implement, and that's what we're here for. We're here to help you nut that piece out. But let's start with, what data counts is there's 2 areas: historical data and future data. Historical is the main thing I want to talk about now, because future is always really difficult, but it's very valuable if you can get it nutted out. So historical, we want to start to look at certainly occupancy patterns. I mean, in the hotel game, we talk about occupancy, and it's the number one thing we're all chasing. Bums in beds, heads in beds, whatever term you like to use, you've got to fill the hotel. And for some of us, it's at any cost. For others, we're a little bit more strategic around our pricing and whether we, I guess, prostitute ourselves to fill the occupancy up. But I'm surprised at how many hoteliers, if this is the number one thing we're focused on, when I speak to them, I say, what's your current occupancy? Many fumble and go, oh, it's roughly this. Well, what was it last month? Oh, I haven't looked yet. And so I'm constantly surprised with how far away from the numbers people are, even in a basic sense around what the current occupancy is. Sure, they're probably keeping their eye on, did I fill last night or not, but it tends to not go beyond that. So if you start to get closer to your numbers, and at the very least start to get close to your occupancy, you're going to be a step ahead of your competitors. So when it comes to occupancy, there's a few ways you can look at this from this historical point of view. First one is you can look at it from a year-on-year perspective. What was their occupancy this year? What was their occupancy last year? Now certainly that should be a goal, and when you're doing all your budgeting and targeting, there'll be a number there. There'll be a targeted number that hopefully is bigger than you're trying to achieve, bigger than you did last year. But it's actually quite macro to look at it from that perspective. It's probably one of those vanity metrics to go, yeah, wow, last year we did 65%, this year we did 72%. And that's a great result, nice to rest upon. But there's not a lot you can do with it, because a year is a long time frame. So breaking it down into monthly occupancies at the minimum is where we'd like to be. And when you get your hands into yielding the property and a bit of revenue management, you want to actually start looking at week on week and even day on day rate fluctuations and occupancy patterns there that you can measure up against, because it's going back to that principle around growth that we talk about. Growth for us is always year-on-year measurement, but in sections. So May versus May, April versus April. So you want to at least get your historical occupancy patterns, have them front of mind of what you did last year, what you did the year before, and what's the pattern? Is it growing, shrinking? Are there anomalies? Was there a major event 2 years ago that's not going to happen, didn't happen last year and certainly won't happen this year? Or is that event coming back in? So being close to the patterns and knowing the rationale and the activities behind a given period, say at a month, will actually help you be looking forward to the future and seeing what's going to happen. But it doesn't happen without capturing the data and putting it in a manageable format. The other way you can look at your occupancy patterns is day of week occupancy patterns. So, getting to know when your busiest times are. So you can pull this apart on a seasonal basis, but certainly on a yearly basis, go, well, are our Mondays typically busier than our Tuesdays? Are our Tuesdays busier than our Wednesdays or Thursdays? Are our weekends busier than our weekdays? So, every hotel's different. But pull the data, analyse it, and find out what it is for you. And it will help you with your pricing decisions when it comes to, well, you know what? Tuesday is our busiest day during the week. We won't have a problem filling Tuesday. We might have a problem filling Wednesday, the shoulder days, Monday and Wednesday. So it triggers you to employ different strategies and techniques to actually help fill the shoulder days, because you know it's going to fill. And once Tuesday is filled, if somebody's looking for a 2 or 3 night stay, well, they can't stay with you, can they? So understanding day of week is important as well. And along with your occupancy patterns, we encourage you to overlay, and you'll see in some of the templates we've got here, we like to overlay average rate in the same, I guess, picture or graph. So if we are seeing occupancy go up, we also want to know what happened with rate at the same time. And that will give you insights as to, geez, what happened? Rate dropped, but occupancy went up. Okay, so we were able to trigger the market by discounting. The question is, did we fill? If we filled, did we discount too far? Should have we been able to bring that up? So I'll demonstrate that to you when we bring up some of the charts a little bit later on, where you can look and find those opportunities. Another thing around historical data is lead time. I know I mentioned that before, but let me explain a little bit more deeply. Lead time is the average amount of time of when you historically receive your bookings. So let's just say, let me try and make this really easy. I'll do an example. Let's just say we've got a 10-room property, and I think I've given some examples in the workbook here. We've got a 10-room property, and 5 of the bookings came in 10 days prior to arrival, and the other 5 bookings came in 20 days prior to arrival. So we've got half of them come in 10 days, another half came in 20 days prior to arrival. So therefore, our average lead time is right in the middle between the 10 and the 20, yeah? So our average lead time for the time frame that we've measured and looked at is 15 days. Now, if then I go and look at the same time period coming forward in the next year, I can rely upon that and say, you know what? Last year, we got most of our bookings, we had an average lead time of 15 days. So I could expect that by the 15 days prior to arrival, we should be at least at 50% occupancy, because last year we filled. All right, so there's a couple of measures there. There's average lead time laid over the top of what the occupancy was last year and where you should be as a result of the historical figures, because history gives us hints for the future. And if the more history we capture and measure and monitor, the better we're going to be at predicting into the future. So lead time is really, really important. Have a read through the content in the workbook. It gives more thorough explanations around lead time, and we really, really implore you to understand lead time well and make it part of your, preferably daily, if not at least weekly and monthly reporting, so you and your team have got a feel for the lead time to expect in the coming booking window. It's such a valuable tool, and it stops panic, or helps you identify, I need to turn something on. If you know when typically your bookings are going to come and be measuring that, you can be relaxed about the strategies you're putting in place. It may be, you know what, we're not in the booking window yet, so we don't need to panic, don't discount yet. Let's hold for a little bit longer. And then if you don't see the pickup, well then maybe you might make a change then. But the key there is knowing your lead times and building them into your reporting and visibility functions. The other thing from a historical viewpoint is quite simply business on the books. So it sounds, it's a little bit counterintuitive, but I'm saying business on the books. So I'm talking about what bookings have we got laid in for the next month, for the next 6 months, and getting a visual on that. And while that sounds like the future, it's actually historical data, because the bookings have come in previously. The bookings came in prior to today. So it's what bookings have we received that I can see that are on our future dates. So while I categorise this under historical, it sounds like it's future, but it's known business or relatively firm business because of whatever your cancellation rates are. So having a handle on business on the books and not thinking that you're starting from zero every week or month or day is really valuable. In conjunction with lead time and occupancy patterns, that will help you make better pricing decisions. A more advanced, I guess, version of those 3 things combined together, and obviously this is some of the services we offer to our high-end elite clients, we can start to look at booking pace. And booking pace is a visual representation of how is this particular day or period of time booking compared to the same time last year, the year before that. Is it booking more rapidly? Is this an expected high demand period, and it does it in a visual representation that rather than looking at numbers going, trying to interpret that, the visual representation goes, I can see it's busier. The pace is faster or the pace is slower. And again, therefore, what pricing decisions will I make? And the final area is in that future area. So we've covered off the historical things because they're all reliant on historical data. Now we talk about future. Future is effectively forecasting. Not easy to achieve, rarely accurate. When I say accurate, it's close, but super helpful if you get it close enough. So the basic concept here is that if I could tell you that in 30 days' time, there are 3 days in a row that you will definitely fill, how does that change your attitude to what pricing you're going to put? If you're currently sitting on 30%, and I can tell you without a doubt, or with relative confidence that you will fill on that day, you change your attitude for pricing. It's like knowing the lotto numbers. If you knew the lotto numbers, you would definitely go put a ticket on with those numbers, wouldn't you? It's sort of like that. Now, forecasting, as I said, is fraught with inaccuracy. But again, it just gives you an indication. And as with all this stuff, the historical measurements, the future measurements, it really, the purpose of it is to give you context, give you perspective, and most importantly, give you confidence in the information you need to make decisions about what to do with your property, your hotel, and specifically your pricing, which we'll definitely be talking around in the very next module. But that's an overview of what we think are the core pillars around what data counts, and your ability to get that into a digestible format. That's the challenge you've got in front of you. We're just trying to lay the foundation in front of you to say this is where you should focus upon. And there's a plethora of ways you can do that. We're here to help, and we'd love to hear about any challenges or roadblocks or questions that you're having about it in the community. So jump on the Growth Gurus page and tell us all about that. And we look forward to helping you and responding to those questions and concerns. Next up, we're going to be talking about external data as opposed to what we've just been talking about, which is internal data. See you in the next section.